Hi, it's Maggie, the Irish Gypsy, here to bring you your February 2020 general readings. We're looking at the first half of February from the 1st through the 15th. Welcome to everyone here with us today, newcomers, first-timers, and welcome back to followers and subscribers. Thanks so much for being here and for all your support of this channel. This reading is for the air sign of Libra for the first half of February. And Libra, your cards are just jumping all over. This is for the air sign of Libra for the first half of February 2020. So that's Libra Sun, Moon, Rising. If your Venus is in Libra, or if you're cross-watching for a Libran as well. But as many of you know, and we always say, if you know all of your signs, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, watch all of them because it can provide additional clarification, and sometimes your other signs can resonate a little more predictably for you than your primary sun sign. I can't even talk. It'd be interesting to see what your cards are showing today, Libra. So if you know all your signs, watch them. It can just be helpful, kind of give you a bigger picture. Now, if any of these readings do resonate for you, because general readings, of course, resonate differently for everyone, but if you are interested in reaching out for a more personal one-on-one reading with me, you can click on the description link below for more info and contact details. You can email me directly at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. I would be delighted to work with you. I can usually respond to initial inquiries within the same day or the first 24 hours. And I do offer a wide variety of readings. And scheduling is done in a pretty timely fashion. I do readings full-time, 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. It's all that I do. So I'm pretty diligent at working with people's schedules to either get you readings as quickly as possible or schedule a reading with you in as timely a fashion as possible. So email me if you're interested and we'll go from there. All right, Libra, let us see what the first half of February has in store for you. Okay, Libra, we begin with the Page of Swords, followed by Strength, the Lovers, followed by the Knight of Swords. From the bottom of the deck, your overall energy and guidance for the first half of February is Justice. It's interesting because I've already done your other two sister signs, Aquarius and Gemini. I did those a little earlier today, and then I did some other signs and readings after that. And it seems like with the air signs, there is a similarity or a common thread running through your readings, and that common thread is about knowing what the right thing is to do in a situation, or trying to navigate through a situation in a way where you might be unsure or uncertain of what the best thing to do is according to honor, morals, integrity, transparency, etc. There seems to be, for all three of the air signs today, that kind of theme about what's the best thing to do here? What's the most honorable thing to do in a situation? So your overall energy for the first half of February, Libra, is Justice, which is a card strongly about honor, integrity, transparency as much as possible. It's the reap what you sow card, meaning that the outcome and consequences of a situation, how something ends up playing out in the long run, in the end, is going to be dependent on what the decisions and actions and choices were of everyone involved. So, of course, the cautionary advice is to be as honest, open, honorable as possible in a situation, because that's going to decide and be reflected in the outcome of something, which is why Justice is the reap what you sow card. So minimal investment, minimal return, maximum investment, maximum return. If you work really hard at something, that will be reflected in the outcome. And if you go into something with the highest level of kind of honor and moral ethics and integrity as possible, that's also going to be reflected in the outcome. But if you don't, then that's also going to be reflected in how this works out for you in the long run. Justice is blind, meaning that the results of something aren't dependent on just what we wished or wanted or hoped for or thought or imagined, but on our actual choices, decisions, and actions. So, kind of be careful and hold to the highest path possible through this situation. So that's your overall energy for the first half of February. And it looks like for many of you, similar to Aquarius and Gemini as well, that there is a primary relationship at the center here. Aquarius and Gemini had the Two of Cups, which is one of the traditional soulmate cards. You have the Lovers, which is kind of glaring here. You have 3 major arcana cards out of 5. You have Justice, you have the Lovers, and you have Strength. So we have first the Page of Swords clarified by Strength. So the Page of Swords, Swords is air energy. This is the energy of our minds. It's air energy. That's the element which governs the suit. And in the tarot, the suit of swords is about what goes on in our heads. Truth, wisdom, enlightenment, higher education, learning, words, communication, our belief systems, our ideologies, how we perceive things. So it's all about what goes on up in our heads and how that reflects in how we relate and communicate as well. Pages are just starting out. They are kind of that, and you have a page and a knight here both. Pages are still students, they're still apprentices, they're still messengers, they kind of deliver messages, but they're always in, they're still in school, they're in the process of learning and acquiring information and doing the homework and learning how to, they're at the beginning of the path of learning how to take what they're learning and all this information and put it into practical application in the real world, in the day-to-day world. So they're just kind of at the beginning of that. And it can also represent messages because pages were messengers. So the Page of Swords is the page of information, truth, wisdom, enlightenment. And sometimes the Page of Swords can also represent someone who is in a situation that might be a bit of a moral or ethical dilemma, meaning the Page of Swords, and the Page of Swords comes up, it can sometimes represent being in a situation where you're like, I feel like I should do something. I feel like I should say something. Should I? Sometimes the Page of Swords can represent, seeing something going on that maybe not be, all that ethical. And you're like, should I stand up and say something? I feel like this isn't right, but should I stand up and say something? Is that the right thing to do? And if so, how do I go about doing it? It can represent being in a bit of a moral or ethical dilemma and being unsure or uncertain how to proceed in the best way possible, particularly if everybody around you is not kind of in that same alignment or perception. And it's going to take some strength to be able to kind of walk through this, because clarifying the Page of Swords, we do have strength. Strength is about facing things, facing your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, other people, wrestling with your own demons, meaning, because that's what the lion can represent. That lion that you need to tame, not beat, not ignore, not pretend it doesn't exist, but learn how to harness it and make it work for you. That lion can represent, again, when we say wrestle with our demons or our shadow self, what it really means is maybe those aspects of ourselves that we don't want other people to see, or that we don't even like to look at ourselves, or it could be like looking at bad habits or things that we do that we know we aren't good, that aren't good for us, or patterns or habits of behavior or choice making that we have which we know aren't good for us. And strength can be about having the courage and the strength and the wisdom and true humility to look at those things and go, okay, this is a part of who I am, this is what I've been doing, what changes can I make, and how can I learn to embrace what's left. This takes a lot of strength and courage and fear to kind of move into that, to face those things, to face our fears, to face our insecurities and doubts, to stand up in a situation perhaps when we feel something isn't right and we're the only ones standing up, to speak out or to say something. It can represent that as well. Sorry, I had to click something off on my computer. I apologize for that. So there's obviously a situation now where now something has popped up on my other computer. I usually play music, so sorry about that, Libra. So there's a situation that And for some of you, it might be a legal situation because you do have justice here, as well as it might be an actual legal situation. Perhaps some of you are getting messages, news, you're not quite sure what to do about it. But I'm getting kind of the sense here, just like I did, I think, with Gemini, where there's a desire to say something, a desire to speak something, some truth, whether it's your truth or something that you see that's going on. And you're kind of in this place with the Page of Swords and Strength where you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm afraid. I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not. So what is this all about? So next we have the Lovers and the Knight of Swords. There is a relationship that's central here in this. Again, Aquarius and Gemini had the Two of Cups. You have the Lovers. The Lovers represents a relationship, a connection that you feel there's no lack of heat here. A lot of passion, a lot of desire, a lot of chemistry. Perhaps it's somewhat tumultuous or conflictive relationship, because relationships where you feel this really strong, passionate connection, sometimes when you get into conflict, those relationships can reflect that as well. The Lovers is also about making a choice. In the early tarot decks, this was not called, the earliest tarot decks, this wasn't even called the Lovers, it was called the Choice. And it depicted a man standing in front of two women or vice versa. And the implication being that a choice needed to be made that was going to significantly affect the lives of everyone involved. So for some of you, it doesn't necessarily have to represent a three-party situation in love. It might for some of you. But it can represent needing to make a significant decision, a really important decision that is either about a primary relationship or that will affect a primary relationship. Because I've seen the Lovers come up when someone needed to make a decision about work that was going to require moving and relocating, which of course would affect their primary relationship in a pretty significant way. So it could be that as well. So there is something that needs to be done, a choice, a course of action that needs to be chosen. But there's this uncertainty and cloudiness, a bit of confusion in knowing what the right thing is to do. Now, clarifying the Lovers is the Knight of Swords. We had the Page of Swords and the Knight of Swords. The Knight is a little more mature than the Page of Swords. He's evolved a bit more. He's the bringer of things. Knights are the bringers, the deliverer in the tarot. They're usually sent out on missions and quests, to accomplish, to bring back the results. They deliver opportunities for change. They usually represent an offer or an opportunity that potentially can represent a lot of change for you. They're much more action-oriented than the Pages. The Pages are still kind of learning, and figuring out what to do with what they're learning. And the Knights are taking what they've learned and they're putting it actually into physical application in a pretty, sometimes obsessive and single-focused way. So the Knight of Swords he's the Knight of Air, so he's bringing news, information. Some of you, this might be, a divorce or a legal separation, some kind of legal situation here. It could be about a relationship or decision which is going to reflect your relationship. It could be, a civil suit, or, it could be divorce for some of you, or it looks like there is information and communication coming in for some of you. For others of you, you're wondering whether to say something or how to say something. What is the right thing to do in a situation? Some of you, it might be a three-party situation. I did pick that up for some of the Aquarians as well. It's the same similar kind of thread here, regardless of how the details and specifics play out, because this is a general reading. It's going to resonate differently for all of you. The fundamental things don't change, though. There is a situation here which involves a relationship. For many of you, it's likely a love romance relationship. For some of you, it might be a third-party relationship. Another fundamental thread is, it feels like for some of you, there's an element of what's the moral thing to do here? What's the right ethical thing to do here? And therein is the opportunity to make a choice, a decision I think for some of you, you're kind of in a moral or ethical dilemma. What's the right thing to do here? Even if you're in a three-party situation and you perhaps got involved with someone else and that's the person you really want to be with, there's still an ethical way to do that. I mean, yes, it involves a cost. Yes, it involves some drama, but it could be, you know, being honest with that, or being open and transparent about it, and just kind of enduring what you have to endure to kind of get through that. Because it does happen. It happens every day. But to operate in secrecy and continue operating in secrecy, for example, in a situation like that, is not karmically right or karmically fair. And remember that since justice is kind of over you for the first couple of weeks of February, the outcome, however this plays out in the end, is going to depend largely on the actions and choices that you make going through this. So keep that in mind. Always cautionary advice with justice. Operate with the highest level of morality, ethics, honor, and integrity that you possibly can during this situation, because that's what's going to you don't want to come to the end of this and look back and kind of regret some of your decisions and actions, you know, with it leaving a really bad taste in your mouth. I mean, this looks like for some of you it might be a tricky situation at best, but there is still, you can still come to the end of even a difficult and challenging situation and look back and go, yeah, maybe I could have done this and this different, but I really did the best that I feel that I could at the time. Advice from Spirit is the Two of Swords, which can represent that there's something that you're not looking at in this situation, and you need to in order to make a decision. Because the Two of Swords can sometimes be the card I call the head stuck in the sand card. You know that there's something that's in front of you, or something that you know that you're deliberately ignoring. There's a reluctance or a resistance to look at it, because you know if that you look at it directly, that you'll have to do something about it. You know, once you acknowledge something's there, then it's there, it's out, you can't take it back. And so keeping yourself from seeing that keeps you from making a decision, or keeps you from taking responsibility for acting, but it also keeps you stuck. So it's time to kind of take the blindfold off, look at what needs to be looked at directly, head on, and make decisions based on that, because that's what's going to determine the outcome in this. Remember that. Okay, Libra, that wraps up your reading for the first half of February. It felt like kind of an intense one, huh? They do come out that way sometimes. It can't always be, as I've heard other, you know, readers say, it can't always be rainbows and skittles. This looks like a potentially challenging and a tricky situation, but I think your overall message, just like with the other two air signs as well, is what's the most honorable thing to do here, and do that. I mean, free will zone, always you can choose to operate and choose and do whatever it is that you feel you need to. Every lesson that has, every path that has lessons, every choice that has lessons is a valuable choice. But Spirit is saying here, stick to the highest road possible. So Libra, I hope that this reading was helpful to you in some way. If any of these readings resonate for you and you'd like to reach out for a personal one-on-one reading, just click on the description link below where you'll find some more info, contact details. You can email me directly at Maggie_McGuire@gmail.com. I would be most happy to work with you. I will see you all again in a couple of weeks for the February 2020 mid-month general readings. Until then, Libra, as always, I wish you much joy, love, peace, wisdom, and strength during this time, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.